You've probably admired beautiful mountain landscapes. Perhaps you've seen pictures of a volcanic eruption. Or maybe you've witnessed steam streaming from the earth, or even boiling water shooting out of the ground. Or maybe you've experienced an earthquake, or seen a picture of the devastating damage earthquakes can cause. What do all these things have in common? All these exciting events are related to the dynamic movement of the Earth. During the next few minutes, we're going to explore some of the Earth's amazing forces, such as earthquakes, volcanoes, and mountain building, and we'll examine how they're related to the Earth's slowly moving surface. Let's begin by taking a look at the Earth from outer space. The view of Earth from space shows a mostly blue planet dominated by water. That water is interrupted by large pieces of solid land called continents. Look closer, and the continents look like pieces of a giant jigsaw puzzle. They even appear to fit together. People throughout the ages have wondered if this was a coincidence or if there was a deeper explanation. Other questions perplex scientists, such as why are fossils of the same organism found on widely separated continents, which today have very different climates? And why did the same types of rock appear on different continents thousands of miles apart? In 1912, a scientist by the name of Alfred Wegener proposed a very innovative idea on the origin of the continents. Building on the work of previous scientists, Wegener proposed that present-day continents once were joined together in a large supercontinent called Pangaea, which means all Earth. His theory stated that over time, the continents drifted away from each other to their present-day positions. Wegener compiled several pieces of evidence to support this theory of continental drift. Perhaps the most convincing evidence was the geographic fit of the continents. For example, notice how Africa and South America fit together so well. Wegener also cited fossil evidence, stating that fossils of the same organism were found on different continents, suggesting the land masses were once connected. For example, a plant fossil called Glossopteris was found on 4 different continents, including Antarctica, an icy continent where this plant could not grow today. Similar glacial effects on all 5 continents further supported the notion that continents were once connected. Rock structures and even mountain ranges which end abruptly at the edges of continents and pick up on the edge of another continent also provided evidence. In spite of all the evidence proposed by Wegener, his theory of continental drift did not gain widespread acceptance for several decades. Alfred Wegener's theory of continental drift was not readily accepted for a variety of reasons. Wegener could not explain how or why the continents drifted apart, or when this occurred. And furthermore, how could the drifting continents plow through the solid ocean floor? In the 1940s, 1950s, and early 1960s, more remote regions of the Earth were explored, especially the oceans. New technologies, such as deep-diving submarines, allowed scientists to explore, map, and take samples from the sea floor. Previously unknown valleys, mountains, and ridges were discovered. Of particular interest were underwater mountain ranges called mid-ocean ridges. You decide. What's the longest mountain range in the world? Maps from the ocean floor reveal that the mid-ocean ridges form the longest mountain range in the world, over 80,000 kilometers in length. Explorers also discovered that tremendous volcanic activity occurred along mid-ocean ridges in large cracks called rift valleys. In the early 1960s, it was proposed that at the mid-ocean ridges, the seafloor was actually separating. According to the theory of seafloor spreading, the seafloor is moving, and segments of the seafloor separate at mid-ocean ridges. This is where lava wells up from rifts and forms a new ocean floor. This was a key theory, and that it helped explain how the continents moved. Scientists surmise that instead of the continents drifting, they actually rode on top of drifting pieces of the ocean floor. As the ocean floor moves, it takes a continent with it. Rock samples from the seafloor added further evidence to support the theory of seafloor spreading. Scientists found ocean floor rocks to be relatively young, especially compared to rocks found on the continents. This present-day image illustrates the relative ages of seafloor rocks on the mid-Atlantic ridge. The youngest rocks in red are located closest to the separating plates, and the older green rocks are located further away from the ridge. Another piece of evidence supporting seafloor spreading relates to the magnetic orientation of minerals in basaltic rocks found in the ocean floor. Basaltic rocks emit a magnetic field which aligns itself with the poles of the Earth. Scientists found that magnetic fields in the ocean floor basalt coincide with changes in Earth's magnetic orientation over time. Furthermore, scientists found a matching pattern of parallel magnetic stripes on either side of the mid-ocean ridges. This indicates a new ocean crust was being added at the same rate, further supporting the notion of seafloor spreading. These amazing discoveries led scientists to elaborate even more on Wegener's theory of continental drift. Their findings were incorporated into the new theory of plate tectonics. In the theory of plate tectonics, it's proposed that a number of tectonic plates ride across the Earth's surface. You decide. What is a tectonic plate? Tectonic plates are made up of the crust and upper mantle, which when combined make up the lithosphere. The thickness of the plates can be compared to the thickness of the skin on this apple. Plates vary in thickness, but average around 100 kilometers thick. The lithospheric plates are less dense than the hot, partially molten mantle below, and float on top of the denser asthenosphere, much like ice floats on a lake. There are 7 major lithospheric plates. In many cases, lithospheric plates carry continents. The largest plate is the Pacific Plate. There are a number of other smaller plates, including the Juan de Fuca Plate, located off western North America. The way plates move in relation to each other is responsible for many of the exciting geological events and features we experience on the Earth's surface. These mountains are part of the Cascade Mountain Range, a range of mountains running from southern British Columbia through northern California. The Cascade Range contains numerous volcanoes, such as Lassen Peak, Mount Shasta, the recently erupted Mount St. Helens, and even Crater Lake, the former site of a huge volcano which exploded, leaving this large caldera, which eventually filled in with water. You decide. What force formed these volcanic mountains? The movement of lithospheric plates is responsible for forming these volcanic mountains. Geologic activity, like earthquakes and volcanic activity, typically occurs where these plates meet, called plate boundaries. As we already stated, plates are in a constant state of slow motion. Two plates interact with each other in one of three ways. They can move away from each other, move toward each other, or slide past each other. The arrows on this diagram of the lithospheric plates indicate the direction the plates are moving at some plate boundaries. Off the coast of Oregon, Washington, and southern British Columbia is a small plate called the Juan de Fuca plate. The place where it meets the North American plate is called a convergent boundary. A convergent boundary is a place where two plates collide. The Juan de Fuca plate is an oceanic plate and is denser than the continental North American plate, which overrides it. The process of one plate plunging beneath another is called subduction. As a result of this process, magma is forced to the surface, leading to the formation of volcanoes. Subduction zones are often referred to as destructive zones because the oceanic lithosphere is destroyed in these areas where it is subducted. Deep-sea trenches are common characteristics found in subduction zones. The Japanese islands are the result of magma being forced to the surface as a consequence of subduction. Encircling the Pacific Plate are areas of convergence, leading to the formation of volcanoes. For this reason, the area is often referred to as the Ring of Fire. The Ring of Fire is also known for intense earthquake activity. When continents converge, as is the case of India and Asia colliding, mountains often form. Along this convergence zone, the highest continental mountains in the world, the Himalayas, were formed as the two plates collided and compressed up the crust. This process is similar to pushing a carpet against a wall. See how folds are formed, simulating the process by which mountains are formed by colliding plates. As we discussed earlier, scientists discovered that at many places on the ocean floor, the seafloor is spreading. Seafloor spreading is characterized by two plates moving away from each other. A divergent plate boundary forms where plates are separating. Mid-ocean ridges are the result of plate divergence. Most of the Earth's volcanic activity occurs along diverging plate boundaries. You decide. Where is most of the Earth's new crust found? Most of the Earth's new crust is found on the ocean floors, where molten rock rises to the surface as plates separate. Divergent plate boundaries are often referred to as constructive regions because new crust is created. A third type of plate boundary occurs where plates slide past each other. This type of boundary is commonly referred to as a transform fault and is characterized by shallow earthquakes but little volcanic action. The San Andreas Fault is a transform fault boundary where the Pacific Plate and North American Plate are sliding past each other. Scientists are not completely sure what causes the plates to move, but they hypothesize that forces within the Earth, called convection currents, drive plate movement. Convection currents are movements of material caused by differences in temperature. Convection currents can be seen in this boiling water, where the hot water rises from the bottom, then cools and sinks. If you were to bore into the Earth, you would find that temperature increases the deeper you go. In the mantle, Earth materials are very hot, existing in a plastic-like state. Nearer the surface, the cooler material sinks, and in turn, hotter material rises. This process is repeated, forming a circular moving convection cell. It's believed that this circular motion causes the plates to move. One of the most fascinating places to witness the power of tectonic plate movement is Iceland. Located in the North Atlantic, it's a country dominated by cold temperatures, glacial ice, and volcanic activity. Iceland straddles the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. This rift separates the North American plate, which is moving westward, and the Eurasian plate, which is moving eastward. The combined effect of straddling diverging plates and sitting atop a hot spot make for frequent volcanic eruptions and other geologic activity, such as an abundance of hot springs. Iceland also has many geysers, which eject superheated water high into the air. Icelanders have developed ingenious ways to tap these forces and use geothermal energy to fuel over 75% of their homes. It heats their greenhouses and even their outdoor swimming pools. They even use steam from deep underground to generate electricity in plants such as this one. So, while living atop the Mid-Atlantic Ridge has its dangers, these rugged people have managed to harness the powerful forces of nature to their advantage. During the past few minutes, we explored some of the theories which help us better understand the dynamic geologic movements of our planet. We studied the theory of continental drift, and how, with the addition of more information, the theory of plate tectonics developed. The key aspects supporting the theory of plate tectonics were discussed, including the discovery of mid-ocean ridges, seafloor spreading, and geologic evidence from the seafloor. We also took a quick look at how plates can interact with each other along plate boundaries, and how these interactions may be responsible for many exciting features. So, the next time you see a mountain range, hear about a volcanic eruption, or see a picture of a geyser, think about some of the amazing things we learned about plate tectonics. You might just look at the world a little differently. Fill in the correct word to complete the sentence. Good luck, and let's get started. Number 1. Wegener introduced the idea of continental. Number 2. The largest mountain range in the world is the ridge. Number 3. It was found that oceanic rocks are then rocks on continents. Number 4. Seafloor spreading is the process of plates. Number 5. Tectonic plates consist of the and the upper mantle. Number 6. The largest plate is the plate. Number 7. A boundary occurs where two plates collide. Number 8 occurs when one plate thrusts under another. Number 9. The San Andreas Fault is a fault. And number 10. Iceland straddles the ridge.